Opinions expressed on this station do not reflect the owners, management, staff, clients, or partners. Medical House presents Bermuda's most viewed and listened to talk show. The Daily Hour starts now.
It's Friday, the 25th day of September. Welcome to the Daily Hour brought to you by Medical House and Lindos. I'm Jamal Hartman along with Carla Zul. Thanks for making us part of your daily routine. If you haven't already, please just share the link, start a watch party, get the conversation out there to your network. Another important conversation for you today. We have economist and lecturer Mr. Craig Simmons joining us, and we'll be talking about the economy. Very important topic. The Daily Play is a read it, don't act it. So someone is going to have to guess a movie line. She's on a
roll.
She's on, yeah, she's rolling right now, but I think that truck might come to a halt today. It wasn't on purpose. Actually, I'm not even sure I remember the movie it's from. I don't think I wrote it down. But let's hope I don't pull a Sherry Lynn Pringle anyway and forget the end. That said, so I'm smiling this morning as we come on air because, a lot to talk about in the economy and all around the Fairmont Southampton situation. But I guess it's not a funny situation, but the Minister of Labor's remarks were very interesting. In the second last paragraph on a story reported on Burn News, it looks like a press release. While the commitment and work of all Fairmont's remaining work permit holders are appreciated, and I thank them for their contribution to Bermuda, they should now make arrangements to settle their affairs on the island, as requests to reside and seek alternative employment will not be granted at this time. I must also reiterate that as per the law, it is the employer's responsibility to bear the necessary costs. You hear me now? So
the employer's responsibility.
So basically, check you later. Now, let me say the sides of this that are interesting. The sides of this that are interesting is the fact that, yes, there's probably, I don't know the breakdown. It'd be helpful to know the breakdown of how many locals versus non-Bermudians worked at the hotel. But in most hotels, there are a large, amount of non-Bermudians working in them because there are various jobs that Bermudians may not be qualified or may not do. That said, it'll be interesting to see the economic impact because these are still workers in the country that contributed maybe through groceries, through insurance, through,
Right.
you name it, gas, stuff like that. We're losing a good amount. So not even just the Bermudian workers who won't have the funds to the income right now, but even them. It's interesting. Very interesting. And the other part of that, I bought myself this little board thing so I could put my notes down. So I just look to the left. That's what I'm doing. Man, I just erased it with my finger, but I was...
That's why it's a dry erase board, Jamal.
Dang. Sorry, folks. Sorry. But so a viewer of the show asked me a question last night, and I was going to mention it anyway, but I'm glad that they did ask because it tells me that other people are interested in discussing this. Anyone who's ever worked at a chain hotel knows that, there are various places in the world you might be able to transfer and work. And the question is, I wonder if any Bermudians who worked at Fairmont Southampton are going to get offered any opportunities to work at another Fairmont hotel somewhere else in the world. Now, I know work permits come with that and stuff, but I believe there's a few Fairmont properties in places like the UK where Bermudians may not need a work permit.
Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I would hope that these things are being looked at for all that Bermuda did for that hotel. I hope that and Bermudians did for that hotel. I would hope that they're offering Bermudians those opportunities as well. We always talk about Bermudians getting experience outside of the country, right? Well, this would be a perfect opportunity for a good partner to work with Bermuda and Bermudians, right?
You think it's going to reopen?
No, Carla, you know what I said yesterday. We've seen this movie before. So I want to be optimistic, but I think it was Miss Cheryl here with you that said, spoke about the difference between optimism and having faith. I'm not quite sure I want to answer that because I know what I want to happen, but we've seen this movie before. We've seen this movie. Terry says, I would be pleasantly surprised if Solve P did that. And I think she's referring to, Fairmont giving Bermudians opportunities elsewhere in the world. What do you all think, though? Like, what do you think? I mean, let's not act like this is not a mutual relationship. They could be doing it. But what I'm saying is it should be a no-brainer to give Bermudians an opportunity. If you value the workers you have, are any Bermudians being offered the opportunity to work at other Fairmont properties throughout the world?
But then would the argument or excuse, whatever you want to call it, be that it's no secret the hotel industry is suffering worldwide, so why would you move them into a foreign country to suffer again as such? Just devil's advocate.
Well, I think the level of hotel I'm talking about is pretty much at like what we have. Like most of Bermuda's hotels, for instance, the salespeople don't work in Bermuda. They're probably not Bermudian, but we do have some local salespeople that work there, work in Bermuda, and they can do what those who work for these bigger hotels do. They can stay in Bermuda, but work for a Fairmont in London or Fairmont in Canada or Fairmont in California. So I think that's what I mean. Now, as far as the industry taking a hit, I mean, having been in that industry, I see a lot of people who have lost jobs. And then obviously over the next couple of months, they're announcing their new job at a new hotel. One of the other things that I guess you have to be in the industry to understand is, and correct me if I'm wrong, any hotel experts out there or tourism experts, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is just something that I noticed from the industry. They mentioned that the hotel is likely to be closed for 2 years, Carl, right? There are hotels that don't open for 2, 3, 4 years, and they already have people in place in sales, because most of those jobs to get the sale takes about 18 to 36 months.
Right, preparing for the opening.
So I'm wondering why they didn't keep sales staff employed if they were planning on reopening in 2 years. So there's a lot to this that I just hope people are peeling back the layers. And again, back to your question about, if the industry is suffering, as stated, again, I see people losing their jobs almost daily on LinkedIn that are in the industry, but popping up at newer properties that are looking. This is a perfect time, believe it or not, for these people to hire. And the reason it's a perfect time is because there's a lot of people out of work. And so the talent that you can get right now is just amazing. Like you can get some really good people at right now. So you're saying, man, that person was a great salesperson for Marriott. Maybe we should bring them over to Fairmont Southampton while we have the opportunity. So it's a fantastic time for HR people hiring the best talent that's out there. If in fact the best talent is there.
But let's just say if they don't intend on coming back, isn't that really, really evil to do this at this time? Because for me, I'm just looking at it as 100 million. You're going to spend in these renovations, but yeah, all these people are going to be out of work. That's what doesn't reconcile for me. I know renovations have to happen, but to me, it's like, why now? Why and cause all this hardship?
The short answer, and it's probably not the right answer, but that's business.
Yeah, I got it.
That's business. It's not the compassionate answer, no empathy, but That's just business.
Reality.
They don't look at. I mean, they should, but they're looking at their bottom line. Talina Murphy says, just heard the Fairmont question. My thinking is that their economies are taking a hit also, so they may be implementing the same policies. Likely. Landria Stays says they should, since Bermuda gave non-Bermudians an opportunity. Fair. The hotel is not owned by Fairmont anymore. It's also, I know it's not owned by Fairmont, but there's still a Fairmont branded hotel. Most
The
of
management company.
the management company. So having been in the industry, again, most of the hotels that have the Marriott banner are not Marriott owned, but people can still transfer from Marriott to Marriott. So people, okay, let me put it to you this way. Take Bermudians out of it. Let's ask ourselves, do you think some of the non-Bermudians that are working at Fairmont Southampton will land another job in another Fairmont hotel? And I'll actually check into that for you. We'll probably have this conversation somewhere down the road. So take Bermudians out of it. Let's see if they do. And if they do, then why couldn't that have been done for others at other Fairmont managed hotels? Elizabeth Carla.
I was surprised that their marketing, sales, and executives were let go as well. You would think that those would be key positions to keep to facilitate a reopening.
Well, again, and Charles says, I would imagine a hotel the size of South P have people on a management track. Those are the people they should be trying to keep for the reopening. But I guess my question, Charles, being in that industry isn't it normal? I mean, tell me if I'm wrong. Like, wouldn't it be normal if the hotel plans to open back in 2 years to keep, as Elizabeth said, the marketing and sales execs on, especially those who are on management track? I mean, I'm just looking at, what was the hotel in DC? Big one that opened, the Watergate. I think they had salespeople working for Watergate probably 2 years in advance. So that's, I mean, I don't know. It seems letting everyone go was a stretch. Talent to Carla.
Just my guess, Fairmont has a global sales team and can utilize cheaper labor.
And Talent makes a great point. That's what I mentioned in terms of Bermudians working for the salespeople. So they can, if Bermudians that work for them were great at sales, then why can't they work for another one? But he did mention cheaper labor. And this is something that, as Mr. Craig Simmons comes on, we'll be discussing just on a global perspective, because this is something everyone should be worried about. I remember when the shutdown first began and people were happy about working from home. And I said, be careful, because once your job realizes that this job can be done from anywhere in the world, then you think they're going to pay you what they're paying you, and they can probably send it somewhere for cheaper labor and get the same, results. So we have to be careful about what we celebrate about. Astro Carl.
Good morning, all. How about offering Bermudians jobs during the renovations, meaning doing the renovations?
Well, I think that's going to happen. I would like to believe that can happen. But what we have to also understand is that during those renovations, do the other 700 people, out of those 700 people, how many of them have those skills to actually do the renovations? Look, I'm not a manual labor guy. Look at me, I don't do construction. So asking me if I was a salesperson at this company to now do construction, that's probably, you all can sit back and say, oh, well, if you want a job, that's not how life works. What I would
It's not your thing.
Yeah, it's not. I don't believe in forcing people to do stuff just because they're they need a job. Like, you utilize people's skills. No, saying that, if the opportunity to retool yourself becomes available and there's an interest and you believe it's a way to support yourself and your family and your community, then you should consider it. Terry Carlin.
A phased approach to their reno would have been a win-win for the property and its employees.
That's what I thought they would have done, honestly. I honestly thought that they would have done that. Ellen Young, value the workers. There's no way ASP will make the opportunity available to Bermudians when the world is suffering. That's a serious stretch. I would honestly, and I answered that already. I think, having worked in the industry, and again, other experts, you can jump in as well. I think we need to open ourselves up and go on LinkedIn. I honestly read LinkedIn every day, and that's where I got a lot of my information, and especially because I was in that industry and well connected. While the industry has been hit, and as I just explained to Carla, this is actually the perfect opportunity and time to get that talent. Like, if you want really good people that are out of work, like, I've seen almost everyone who I knew that lost their sales job or hotel related job get on their feet over the last few months. Many lost their jobs in March, April, and they're announcing their new jobs right now on new properties, some that haven't opened yet. So I just want you to expand your mind beyond Bermuda when thinking of this here. And we have to. We have to. This is a global industry. And yes, it has been hit, but there are opportunities within it. Talina Murphy, caller.
I worked at Marriott and was there when it closed. Only a couple of Bermudians, less than 5, went on to other Marriotts. But back then, people were not really seeking to leave the country.
It's not a stretch, Leslie. It's not a. This is the norm. This is what I'm saying. This is there are
Industry.
This is industry. Like again, and I just mentioned a hotel. These hotels that are not even open. Let's forget. Let's say Fairmont Southampton didn't exist, right? And there was a new hotel developer that just started to build today for a hotel opening in 2022. Those hotels would hire salespeople right now and marketing people, because the window for booking is 18 to 36 months for groups, folks. So it's not like I'm not just shouting at the mouth. This is like actual
Fact.
information that I'm sharing with you. Charles, thank you. Yes, they would have a sales team, but sales are down worldwide, or at least in North America. So they may be waiting for it to start to rebound before bringing back. So and let me just say, Charles is actually a COO in the industry. So I would take what he's saying. So yes, it is normal for organizations to normally have the sales team in place 2 years in advance, but because of the worldwide sales being down, that's probably why they haven't done it. Thank you for that, Charles. All right, Carla, we got to get to the news.
Okay.
Yeah, let's go to the news. I'll read 2 more comments and then we'll go there. Nachiko Trot says, if Bermuda government is giving concession to South Peak for renovations, then as a part of the deal, should be that when open, 90% of the staff should be Bermudians. That's tough. That's tough for a government to tell a private entity. But then, I mean, it's all who's in the room and what's negotiated. All right, Carla, are you ready? I don't think I'm ready for you. Let's go.
An $800,000 government loan to an American music promoter to set up a recording studio in Dockyard was made at the direction of the premier, a former cabinet minister has claimed. Commentators on Twitter criticized David Burt and Jamal Simmons, who was economic development minister when the loan was approved, for lending money to Anthony Blackie and for a failure to dig deep enough into his background. Mr. Simmons, who lost ministerial portfolio in November 2018, replied to the critic on Twitter, "While this was a project performed at the Premier's direction, and while there was due diligence performed by technical officers, I am going to do what most politicians won't, take responsibility. This never should have happened." Police have found forensic evidence at the scene of a serious sex assault on a woman at knife point, a senior officer has said. Detective Superintendent Nicholas Pedro revealed that a number of forensic items had been detected at the scene of the attack on Ferrylands Road in Pembroke. Mr. Pedro added, "We have been working with the 31-year-old victim in this case, and we're pleased to say that things have been progressing well with regards to understanding from her what occurred in those early hours of Sunday morning. The woman was attacked as she walked to work." Jaleel Motokrim, the former Black Panther who was named as Anthony Bottom when he was convicted in the murders of 2 New York City policemen nearly 50 years ago, is set to be released from prison after an order from the New York State Board of Parole. Motokrim had been repeatedly denied reprieve over the past several years despite becoming eligible for parole in 1998, according to The Guardian, and expressed remorse at his most recent hearing. The BBC reporting early this morning, a police officer has been shot dead at Croydon Custody Centre in South London. He was shot by a man who was being detained at the centre at the time. It is believed the suspect was taken there where he was being searched before producing a weapon and firing it at an officer and himself. The officer was treated at the scene by paramedics, but after the incident, he later died at hospital of gunshot wounds. A 23-year-old man was detained at the scene. He also was taken to hospital and he remains in critical condition. Jamal, today is September 25th, and it's Hug a Vegetarian Day. And it is tied to the history of PETA, the organization which founded it. For people who don't know, PETA means People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals and was founded by Ingrid Newkirk in 1949. One way to celebrate is to go out and hug all the vegetarians and vegans you know and thank them for living a cruelty free life and honoring fellow animals rather than consuming them. I guess I won't be getting a hug today. Turning to weather, Bermuda is expected to reach a high of 80, Fort Lauderdale 86, and Birmingham, UK 54. And don't forget, Medical House is your #1 source of PPE supplies, masks, face shields, disinfectants, sanitizers, glove gowns, no-touch thermometers, and so much more at the lowest prices. Visit Medical House at 22 Millreach Lane in Pembroke. On a programming note, get your weekend started with Juggle and Jason and the office workout on the Full 100 radio from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. this and every Friday. That's your Daily Hour news break.
All right, Vegetarian Day. Go ahead, folks. All right, we're going to be right back with economist and lecturer Craig Simmons. Just want to touch on this comment first. I'm in the industry and Bermuda doesn't have the type of market to keep people for 2 years. That's not true. That's not true. And this is why it's important to work and understand the industry beyond where you sit, grow beyond your environment. What Mr. Jeffers specifically said, and he addressed this, they would for a sales team. Sales teams are usually in place. And it's happened at a local Bermuda hotel, one of the most recent ones that opened. And I'm not going to share which one it is, but that's not true. Hotels traditionally have sales and marketing execs in place long before they open over the time of construction, especially if the period's over 2 years. So that is not true, my friend. It's the precedent has been set in Bermuda, and especially with the hotel with Fairmont Southampton, which is the leader in conferences and events. Conferences and events, companies book those 18 to 36 months out. So that is not true. I'm not speaking in a Bermuda context. I'm speaking globally. And fortunately for Bermuda, Fairmont Southampton falls within that global perspective. Let's take a break. We'll be right back with economist Craig Simmons.
Good day, Medical House Doris speaking. Can I help you?
Medical House is Bermuda's leading one-stop shop for healthcare. Bermuda's top doctors, dentists, care homes, and the hospital choose Medical House for a wide range of products.
Anything that we ask them to do, they come through.
These same professional quality products are available to you for home healthcare.
If we can use them, we definitely do so.
Medical House is best known for its uniforms and footwear. It also has restaurant uniforms that stand up to even the toughest shifts. If you're on your feet all day, Medical House has comfortable and stylish shoes that are also durable and easy to clean. Everyone needs some help cleaning up, and Medical House has got it. Leading-edge janitorial, facility, and maintenance supplies are all here. Medical House is on Millreach Lane in Pembroke, where there's private parking right outside the door. Call or visit Medical House today.
This month, we're featuring Crunchmaster gluten-free crackers, a hearty alternative to the mainstream fare. The people behind Crunchmaster preserve the inherent qualities of the traditional cracker by incorporating the time-honored Japanese culinary discipline known as utsuyaki, an especially light and dry method of baking, perfect for achieving the goal of authentic flavor and, above all, crunchiness. Try Crunchmaster gluten-free multi-seed and multi-grain crackers in a wide range of tantalizing flavors. Lindo's, why go anyplace else?
Tune in to the Full 100 Radio every Tuesday through Sunday at 7 p.m. Bermuda time as we bring you the love, romance, sexiness with nighttime jams only on your station for conversations and entertainment. The Full 100 Radio. Download the app available for Android and Apple devices.
All right, and welcome back to the Daily Hour. Carla Zoom, myself, Jamal Hartman. Don't forget, the Daily Hour is on Facebook. It is on YouTube. It is on Twitch, Twitter, and the Full 100 Radio station, as well as the websites, thedailyhour.com and thefull100radio.com. Don't also remember, we're going to be live this Sunday on the Daily Hour YouTube channel, so make sure you subscribe. We'll be discussing a few key constituencies for the upcoming election, so you want to join that conversation on our YouTube station this weekend. Juggling Jason will be up at 10 to 3 today, so make sure you get your weekend started with Juggling Jason. Nighttime jams. I think I saw Carla in the house last night. I'll leave it at that. But without further ado, let's bring our guest for the day, Mr. Craig Simmons, on. Hello, welcome to the show, sir.
Yes, thank you for having me.
No
Morning.
problem. All right. So, man, you're an important figure. You know, it's an election going on right now, and you're probably one of the people most want to hear from the most. That says a lot. A lot to discuss, especially regarding the economy. But what do you make? Like, what's your in the space you sit in? What do you make of the current economic state globally?
Oh, wow. Globally, it's a great time to reset. It reminds me of the last major pandemic. No, we're talking about what was unfortunately called the Black Death in the 1300s. That was a major reset globally because it essentially empowered poor people, largely because half the population in Europe died, and there was a shortage of labor, and there was basically a revolution of sorts. Those powerless people gained a lot of power. I don't expect that to happen here. In fact, the opposite has occurred as a result of COVID. The rich, especially those who own media companies, technology companies, they've made billions since the COVID pandemic. So yeah, that's a big and difficult question to answer. Bermuda, on the other hand, I think has done quite well, thank you, and I think we are in a good position to take advantage of other people's misfortunes, and so that's sort of exciting in some ways.
It's interesting you say that, because back in March, when the shutdown first happened, and if you've never watched this show, I like to use football analogies, so hopefully you're a sports fan. But back in March, Manchester United had actually reported that they'll be able to take advantage of the economic situation like other clubs can't. And they pretty much have done less than every other team in the league, now citing that the amount of money that they're losing and they've lost. So when you said just now, Bermuda has done much better than others, I just hope that it's not a Manchester United situation, like we get excited and then the fans are let down because of things that happened like 2 days ago with the Fairmont Southampton situation, which has left people wondering, and I 700 jobs. It's not just 700 jobs, but as I stated the other day, there's 700 less people to put into insurance companies, buying gas and groceries and so on. So, I mean, you're the expert, but I just, my sports has given me a perspective that we have to be cautious, a bit cautious as we go along. Go ahead.
Yeah, there is a shift underway. Former students have come up to me. They've been a part of the shift. They've started businesses, specifically delivery businesses, and this one young man indicated that he's doing extremely well, better in a sort of COVID environment than before. Because there's a demand for new services, for new products, and people who were lucky enough to be in a position to take advantage, to have those, to bring in those products or to create those services. Those folks are doing well, and they're hiring, and the money is satisfactory. So. There is a shift happening. Unfortunately, the people who are doing well are not going to stand on a soapbox and say, I'm doing well. And so the media tends to sort of thrive on negativity. So I'm not surprised that, the Southampton princess is front page news and it's in everyone's ears. But just an absence of evidence isn't evidence of absence.
It's interesting you say that, because we definitely, I remember when we had one of the delivery service chiefs on recently, and we spoke about his business and how it's boomed during this time and how he's been able to hire people. So it literally speaks to what you just said. I mean, there have been people, and going back to what you said about technology and media, I'm on LinkedIn a lot, so I read a lot of different articles from Inc.com and Forbes, and these technology companies have been booming. And so you start to say, well, there are people winning in this. How can I get a piece of that pie? So it's definitely, I think basically it'll take a cultural mindset shift to understand that there are still opportunities and problems to be solved if we can, shift our minds and make it happen. So yeah, I definitely agree with that. What are your thoughts, Mr. Simmons, on the companies that are moving towards work from home? I've read articles that have said, okay, and it was an article on Washington Post yesterday, actually, where various CEOs, from Warren Buffett to the guy from Google, they were just giving their feedback on whether it's worked or not. But there's some concerns that it may cause another problem with real estate, which can also add to the woes. What are your thoughts on that?
Okay, well, there's going to be winners and there's going to be losers. City landlords are likely to be losers. They won't be able to command the rents that they used to command. But those people are going to be working from home. So whilst rents in the city may fall, rents outside of the city may in fact increase. There's no doubt that Hamilton realtors, Hamilton businesses are not going to do as well as they did beforehand. And so this is like a new day, a new beginning for a lot of people. And we have to remember that we weren't exactly fond of what was happening before. There were problems with rising inequality, racism. And so times like this provide us with an opportunity to reset. And this is a new beginning. In 5 years' time, you'll probably look back and think, wow, the sort of kings of industry, there's been a change. There are new kings, new sheriffs in town. And that's what I see happening as a result of COVID.
And I want to say, I definitely agree with all you said so far. This show, Carla and I being here talking to you, is a result of COVID. A lot of what we've been able to do with media and technology has been a result of COVID. Like, you may have had the idea before, but this just said, you know what, let's get it done. So I definitely see what you're saying with that. But then there are people who have, jobs in the very companies in Bermuda, in these buildings right now, and they've been working from home. And earlier, before you joined, I had stated that, working from home, I don't think it's something that everyone should celebrate, because once some of these companies understand that a lot of the work can be done from home, what's to stop them to taking a job somewhere for cheaper labor? Should that be a concern of people, and should we be preparing for that?
I'm not so worried about the jobs leaving Bermuda. I was looking at a survey that McKinsey, a group of consultants, did recently, and people are spending less time commuting. And so the question is, what are people doing with the extra time? Well, if you think about total extra time gained, a fair share of it, a third, is being used to work more. And I think about myself. I find that I'm putting more hours in working on my principal job at Bermuda College, because I've got extra time. The laptop is here, and I'm just doing stuff. Sometimes it's busy work, sometimes it's sort of reading stuff that I wouldn't normally have time to read because I'm commuting. Bermuda's biggest asset right now is a sort of, in relative terms, a COVID-free environment. So I would expect Bermuda to be a magnet for business types. The idea of leaving Bermuda, if I'm an exempt company, an international company, doesn't make sense. Where are you going to go? You don't want to go back to the States or to New York or to London. Things aren't working well there. So in some sense, Bermuda is going to benefit from the epidemic. In that way, Bermuda is anti-fragile, and it's not the first time that we've had that kind of thing happening. Our best year in tourism came as a result of what's called the Achilles Laurel incident. It was a cruise ship in the Mediterranean. Some Palestinians boarded the cruise ship, shot a couple of Americans, and threw their bodies into the sea. That particular summer and the subsequent summer, Bermuda did fantastic for obvious reasons. If you go further back in history, the American Civil War, Bermuda brought large swaths of the local economy, sided with the Confederates. The Confederation needed to export its cotton, and it also needed manufactured goods. Bermuda was a clearinghouse for that. So during the American Civil War, the Bermuda economy boomed. When the war was over, the economy slipped into a deep recession. So Bermuda, time and time again, has benefited when the rest of the world is going to hell in a handbasket. And this may be one of those times.
I'm honestly going to say, I think so far I'm very inspired, and I think you've offered hope, because from what Bermuda was built for these times. And I think because we were built for these times, and I think Dijon just said it, tech and trade skills are on the move. You're either doing coding or maintenance. The next 5 years are crucial. The next 10, we will see a whole new world. I think out of this is, people just need to see the opportunities in all of the negativity. So thank you for that. One more, what do you think? So I know you mentioned like the opportunities, like some people have started delivery companies and so on. What are some other, what's some of the low hanging fruit out there where we can probably boost industry right now?
Okay. Well, the other threat before COVID came along was AI, artificial intelligence. Mm-hmm. So people like me are in trouble. General practitioners are in trouble. Lawyers are in trouble. A lot of white collar folks are in trouble. The people who are not in trouble would be healthcare professionals, tradespeople, folks, plumbers, carpenters. So that's another factor, I think, that's going to change the balance of power. So the so-called sort of intellectuals or the brain people, I think their jobs are under threat. The folks that use their hands, the folks that have been sort of discounted for the longest time, I think they will be the new champions of industry. So yeah, COVID has upset the apple cart. Artificial intelligence is going to continue to upset it. And it's really about being flexible, understanding that no job is for life, and being willing to go back and retrain. Like me, I went to university a long time ago. The skills that I learned there are just, the world has changed and it will continue to change. COVID is just one global disease. There are going to be others coming. So this is really the new normal.
And I think the overall point you're making from that is we just need to evolve with the times. I know one of the things I've learned, and I pick up people like yourself, and I try to I listen and read what you say, and it's all about staying relevant. I watch a lot of YouTube videos to learn different skills right now. And one of the areas I don't think you mentioned just now was, I was trying to figure out, do salespeople fall in that category as well? Because when I look at Indeed for jobs, it's always healthcare professional, like everything you said. And the only other job I would see is sales, because I'm like, how do salespeople survive? And one of the things I figured out was that because they're such like they're commission based, so it's less of a labor expense, it would seem. And also, anyone who can make rich people richer and without having to take on the expense, it seems like there are going to be opportunities for it, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, time, the scarce resource going forward is going to be attention. So if I want to buy something, there's all sorts of stuff out there for me to buy. You go online and you get saturated, you get inundated with information. And I don't have the time to look at all of this stuff. So you talked about salespeople, someone who can simplify the choices that are out there, because arguably we've got too much choice, and my limited brain capacity doesn't allow me to deal with that choice. I'm thinking about, you start a job and the boss gives you a number of pension fund or options. Let's say you've got 10 of them. I can't evaluate 10 options. I need someone to tell me what to do. And to your suggestion about salespeople, I think salespeople have a valuable role to play in terms of simplifying my decisions about what to buy and what not to buy.
Yeah.
Mr. Simmons, in your recent World Gazette article, you said that in order for Bermuda to make a full economic recovery, we have to eradicate the coronavirus. However, the island has been relatively low in cases. So what else could be done to eradicate it without further, because I hear, for example, well, close the borders. That's what I hear, but that would further impede the economy. So what is a healthy balance?
That is a $1 million question. The precautionary principle, I think, is rings true. We don't want to open up too quickly, but then you don't want to do it too slow. So there's that, what do they call it? The Goldilocks zone. First things first, you need to, I don't know about eradicate, but at least manage the disease, be in a position to not be overwhelmed by it in terms of a healthcare system, so that when something happens, you're able to deal with it effectively. Another part of it would be healthcare, perhaps universal healthcare, because health is now a public good, whereas before this, I've got cholesterol issues. I just take a pill. It doesn't affect other people. Whereas in a COVID environment, your health is my health. And so we're going to have to devote considerable resources to ensuring that all island residents remain healthy, and gradually pry open the doors, allowing the digital nomads in, allowing tourists back in. It's going to be a difficult path ahead, and I would argue that precautionary principle should rule. We shouldn't be taking crazy risks, as arguably happened earlier this year when a cruise ship was sort of told to leave one port and ended up coming here. I thought that was a little crazy, a little bit cavalier on the part of the then tourism minister. We don't want to expose our people to those kinds of risks. Precautionary principle should rule supreme.
And realistically, how many years do you think it will take for Bermuda to make a full economic recovery from what's happening now?
That's a difficult one. In terms of tourism, I'm sort of in some ways glad that the cruise ship industry is on hold, because I remember a time when air arrivals dominated the tourism product. And this, I think, is a time for us to sort of revive that particular area, because, quite frankly, we don't need a lot of people. I mean, the ideal number of tourists in Bermuda is one. You want one person to come here, again, ideally, and spend, say, $500 million, which is about what tourists spend when they come. And that would allow us to better manage any COVID risks. But the reality is we're going to have to let more than one in. More to your question, how long is it going to take? Well, there's some sunshine coming from international business because of the pandemic. Reinsurance grows when risks are high. So, for example, in 2005, after Katrina, Irma, the reinsurance industry grew because people were afraid of hurricanes. Arguably, people are afraid of pandemics. So there's the chance, the possibility that the reinsurance sector will grow as a result of this. Now, that's not going to solve all of our problems. We need to get tourists back in. That's going to be a slow, arduous process. I don't expect 2021 to be the year when we return to normal. So I think we're realistically looking at 2022 or 2023.
Now, we talked about Fairmont, Southampton, and the 700 people who've lost their jobs. To the ones in Bermuda, if they're listening or watching right now, I have a two-pronged question. What would you say to them in regards to retooling? And then two, what about especially the seniors who, there are people that have worked there for 30, 40 years and may not have opportunities in the work, in the job market because people may think they're too old. What happens to them, or what can be done as such?
Yeah, from a policy perspective, I think it's important to help and protect people, workers, not jobs. So I'm less concerned about the jobs that have gone. We can work with people. We can give them the training that they may need. Of course, if you're an older person, training may be something that you're not fond of. But I think generally speaking, as a rule of thumb, we need to protect our people. This is where Bermuda College comes in as the sort of institution of higher learning and the place that can hopefully help people retool for what's coming. The things that I see coming in both energy and food, the transition from non-renewable to renewable. So we're going to need people who understand solar and wind energy. There's talk of vertical farming. We're going to need people who understand that, who can work in those areas. So this sort of reset, this new beginning, will also provide new opportunities. I can't tell you what those opportunities look like exactly, but I think as we roll forward, clarity will come. And it's about being patient and being open to the new opportunities that are being presented.
Now, I wanted to go back a minute. You were talking about, you mentioned it about healthcare. In that same article in the RG, you talked about making healthcare more accessible. But every guest that we have had on this show so far has basically said that the cost of healthcare will never go down. Insurance is, I'm saying this, always going to be expensive. Do you think that models can be put into place economically to make healthcare more accessible, especially to those who cannot afford it?
Yeah, thinking about artificial intelligence, I think that technology is our best bet for lowering costs. I said earlier that I think GPs are going to become obsolete. They may end up on financial assistance because my watch, which I don't own, will be able to tell me when my cholesterol is high or my heart skipping a beat. It will maybe make an appointment at a specialist. So I see technology as being the main driver of bringing healthcare costs down. I don't know that we have a choice with respect to healthcare. Given that the economy needs healthy people, that we need to prevent the spread of communicable diseases, you don't have any choice. You have to make sure that your marginalized people are taken care of. I'll give you the example of Singapore. Singapore had a fair handle on the COVID epidemic, but it had migrant workers that were basically marginalized. And those migrant workers were the ones that got sick. And of course, when they returned to work, they infected the general population. So the point being that the homeless person that we dismiss, that person could be the one to kick off another epidemic. We have to ensure that everyone in Bermuda has access to healthcare. Not because I'm a humanitarian, it's because I'm selfish. I'm caring about my own health. My own health is intimately connected to the health of every single individual on this island. And in terms of the cost, well, the cost calculation, the cost benefit calculus has changed dramatically. In the days when my health was independent of someone else's health, I could say, oh yeah, the benefit of having healthy people was low. But now the benefit of having healthy people is high. And so the entire calculus with respect to universal healthcare has changed. It's a new day, and we need to think in new ways about our people.
Indeed, indeed. Let's go to some questions. We have quite a few. Tamara Richardson says, does the current level of national debt give you cause for increased concern considering the added uncertainty in spending due to COVID?
Well, yeah, the debt is of concern. You know, it's over 3 billion. And by the time we get through this, it's going to be sort of heading toward 4. And that doesn't count the pension liabilities and all the other stuff that we've got to contend with. But right now, it's not something that should stop us from moving forward. We have to ensure that those people who have lost jobs are able to put food on the table, that they have access to health care, that they're able to pay their rent. This is really why we have a government. Arguably, you know, in hindsight, we could say that we squandered a lot of money over the last 20 years. But the reason why we have a government is for times like this, when you end up in a war, and we are in a war. And so we've just got to grin and bear it. Now, we have to also realize that when this is over, we've got to pay down those debts. And that will invariably mean higher taxes. Now, one reason why we're in this bind is because the government, I'm going to quote a former premier and finance minister, has lacked the testicular fortitude to address debt repayment. We could have started last year or the year before, but we decided to kick the can down the road. We're not going to have that kind of wriggle room coming out of COVID. We have to make a serious effort to reduce the debt to a manageable level within 10 years, which is something that the Fiscal Responsibility Panel has been calling for the last 4 or 5 years. You know, it's like you have a huge credit card debt. It's so easy to pay the minimum balance. It takes commitment to start paying on the principal. And where I'm disappointed with our government is that they didn't take the first step. They kicked the can down the road, and you know, the hardest payment to make is the first one. The second one becomes easier. The third one becomes easier. The commitment kicks in, and before you know it, you've got your debt to a manageable level. That is what I want to see from our government, and I think that's the kind of pressure that the electorate needs to put on the government to seriously deal with our debt issues and stop kicking the can down the road.
Indeed, indeed. One last question, as I know we have to wrap it up. Daniel J. Woods asks, are you concerned that Bermuda might be headed towards becoming a welfare state?
No, because I see The fundamentals of the local economy are sound. We have a good infrastructure. I mean, there are issues with public education. There are also issues with private education. We Bermudians need to desperately fix the education system so that we can produce knowledgeable people, people who can sort of stand up and take their rightful place in our society, assuming jobs in the international business sector, assuming jobs in the trades, because that's where a huge chasm exists. We used to be able to produce tradespeople. In fact, if you look at the history, back in the 1700s, legislation was passed in the House of Assembly to penalize masters who would rent out their slaves who were highly skilled. Whites in Bermuda felt hard done by because Black folks were so much better at the trades that existed. And so legislation was introduced in the House of Assembly to apply a tax against any Black person who was getting training in the trades, so that whites would have a sort of a level playing field, as it were. Now, that sounds really, really weird, eh? That Black folks or white folks felt hard done by in days gone by in the areas of the trades. And we're in exactly the opposite position. We've got to get our people skilled in plumbing, carpentry. Unfortunately, we took our eye off the ball thinking that, you know, the desirable places to be were in international business. I attended a conference, Dive In, yesterday, and listening to our people who work in international business, I'm thinking, God, I'm glad I don't work in that industry, despite the fact that the average salary in the industry is in excess of 140,000. Those people work in a hostile environment. They have to deal with racism in a way that I just can't imagine. Going to cocktail parties where you are a minority. We screwed up. You know, we are chasing after money and essentially, let down our people. And so we've got to work really, really hard to get our people trained up to work in areas that will make them feel good about themselves, as opposed to chasing after dollars and cents.
I want to touch on that before we let you go. You mentioned racism at cocktail parties, and there's actually that level, depending on what level you are in tourism as well. I mean, there were many times where I experienced, you know, certain things. I mean, I've shared stories with friends that I've never shared publicly about what I experienced. One comment that was made was I was at a conference, and many of these conferences, not many people that look or sound like me, but someone came and, you know, you have these one-on-one meetings, and basically they're like, oh, and this is a real quote, folks, I'm not making this up. Quote, Bermuda used to be such a nice place, but now I hear you have all these Rastafarians there, end quote. Like things like that. And it's like, how do you continue these conversations? And it does come down to what they've always been told and sold when it comes to Bermuda, but it definitely happens. And so you go to these events, big time events, and that's the conversation, but you don't get told this stuff, because I can tell you, I've only shared that with about 4 or 5 people in a group I'm in. And I just shared it at that time because I wanted them to understand the perception that people have based on what's marketed at the time. Yeah.
So we need to move in a direction where you're building inclusivity. We invite these people to our country to build this international business. I mean, so I have to ask the question, what do you expect? What do you expect when these people, they're bringing their baggage, they're bringing their racism when they come? Now, having said that, progressive forces do come with it, but you've got to be willing to accept the sweet with the sour. COVID is giving us an opportunity to reset, to rebuild, to build an economy that is more inclusive, to build an economy that will will give respect to blue collar folks.
Mhm.
And I'm really optimistic because what I saw happening in the past, in the times when the so-called economy was booming,
Mhm.
was not good. I mean, the commute to Hamilton, um, inequality, there were all sorts of problems, but somehow we seem to have this selective amnesia to think that 2005 and before was such a great time. Well, it might have been a great time if you were making money, but if you were poor, it wasn't. I mean, rents were skyrocketing, the cost of living was just out of control. And so when the recession came, people in 2008, people, sort of complained, but it's like, be careful what you want. We really don't want to go back to the Bermuda of pre 2008.
Indeed.
We need to sort of remember the downside of that time. And here we have in this sort of 2020 period, the time to begin to start anew. And I don't think we should sort of allow this crisis to pass without making an earnest effort to sort of build a Bermuda that is inclusive, not just for the Barclayites and the people that go to Saltus, but for the folks that go to Sands and Warwick and Whitney. I know I'm talking in old people.
Yeah.
Building a truly inclusive Bermuda.
Mhm.
This is our opportunity. It's probably not going to happen in my lifetime again. So I'm really looking forward to what's coming.
Mr. Simmons, thank you honestly for this conversation. We actually never go this long over time with a guest, but
I apologize.
No, it's not.
It was well worth it.
The importance of the conversation. I mean, we would love to have you back sometime. Hopefully, when you're available, I'll definitely be reaching out. But thank you for sharing this information, and I look forward to us doing our part in this media and technology space to bring more positivity and help people create opportunities, as you stated, to improve the economy. So thanks again, Mr. Simmons.
Thank you for having me.
No problem.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Yes. Bye for now.
All righty. Man, you all, man, that was some good stuff. I hope everyone got out of that. We're going to pay some bills, and then we'll be back. We're going to still do the daily play and the inspirational quote of the day. We'll make sure we get that done. I know we're over time, but we'll get that done.
Bermuda College has facilitated the success of thousands of Bermuda students since 1974. Today, we take great pride in providing quality instruction, innovative education, and unparalleled student support. Bermuda College is now seeking to extend its tradition of customized commitment by recruiting credentialed faculty who share our passion for delivering instruction that will inspire and challenge minds.
For as long as I can remember, I've had a passion for showing students how relevant mathematics is outside of the classroom. Teaching at Bermuda College has afforded me the opportunity to do just that. Using various forms of technology and ever-evolving pedagogy, I make the curriculum come alive for the students. And when they understand it, every moment of preparation was worth it.
To learn more, plan to attend one of the online information sessions. Times and webinar details are on the college website at college.bm.
It's the Daily Hour. Call of Zoom, myself, Jamal Hartman. Thanks again, really, from the bottom of my heart to Mr. Craig Simmons for actually giving us the extra time and having what I believe is one of the most important conversations that we can have about our economy and our well-being. So thanks to everyone who continues to tune and ask the questions. Again, we don't get to every question, but continue to share these conversations. Let's keep them going. We'll definitely like to have Mr. Simmons back pretty often, not just again, but these conversations, the more information we get. And Bermuda College, I must say, is lucky to have Mr. Simmons, right? So here's the daily play caller. I'll make it really quick for you. Quote, help her out, folks. Quote, please, man, married life is easy. You only got one woman to satisfy. End quote. Help her out, folks. Help
Said no man never. No, I'm joking. I'm there. Let me see. Let me think like Jamal. Say it again. One got to get married, one man, woman.
Quote, please, man, married life is easy. You only got one woman to satisfy. End quote.
Best man?
No.
You know I don't watch movies, so
The both characters were actually police officers, undercover police officers. They're releasing a part pretty soon.
Oh, Bad Boys? No, they have a part 3. Oh.
You got it. You got it. All right. What's the inspirational quote of the day?
Jeez. You have to be unique and different and shine in your own way. Lady Gaga.
All right. Unique and different. Don't be afraid to be yourself, basically, folks. All right. Thanks again to Mr. Craig Simmons. Don't forget, subscribe to our YouTube channel. We'll be going live this Sunday at 8 p.m. Bermuda time. 8 p.m. Bermuda time. This Sunday, we'll be going live on our YouTube channel, The Daily Hour. If you don't know what the link is, just visit our Facebook. It's been shared. Or Twitter. We'll be discussing key constituencies in Bermuda's upcoming elections. So make sure you check us out. Join the conversation. We'd like to hear from you as well. Also, don't forget, Juggling Jason is coming up at 10 a.m. Bermuda time. So just under an hour on the Full 100 Radio today with the office workouts, getting you ready for your weekend. Carla, any final words before we head out?
Just be kind to one another. Have a great weekend.
All right. We appreciate you. We love you. And we thank you for making us part of your daily routine. If all goes well, we'll be back. Well, Sunday evening at this point, right? Yeah.
Sunday night, YouTube.
Sunday night, midnight UK, 8 p.m. Bermuda, and 7 p.m. East Coast US.
I'm getting my bed now.
Thanks for tuning in to The Daily Hour, brought to you by Medical House. All recorded episodes and highlights can be found at thedailyhour.com. Stay connected with us by following us at The Daily Hour on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.